everybody, this is Courtney. This weekend I was at a book sale and I noticed all these books that are movies. I didn't even realize that many of them started out as books. So I figured let's go down memory lane a little bit and start talking about some of these movies that we love so much based off of books. I figured while we're talking about all of these great movies and books, might as well get a little bit Hollywood glam because I have nowhere else to wear any of the great things I have because there are no parties going out. So, off to the showers because I just finished working out. Okay, everybody, I'm back. Got my wig cap on, preparing for a little something later on. Okay, gonna moisturize and get all the makeup done. So the first book / movie I'm going to talk about is Prince of Tides. Now I know there's so many people on here that don't even know what this book is or were probably born way after. The only reason I know about it is because you grow up in a large family with one TV and your mom wants to watch Prince of Tides, you watch Prince of Tides. This movie follows Tom, who is this southern guy with a southern drawl, and he goes to New York because his sister tried to commit suicide. And he sits down and he's talking with her therapist, who she's been seeing for a long period of time, and all of these past traumas from the childhood that have never been brought up gets talked about, and you just see that they had a very tumultuous childhood. It's just one of those books that captivates you. You learn a lot about the South. You learn a lot about how trauma affects children as they grow up into adulthood. Just a really good movie. I tried picking up the book. Not for me. I think it was a little bit too sad, especially after watching the movie, but I think it's definitely a movie that's worth checking out if you want to see something different. If this is one of those movies that if you ever want to see a grown man cry, you literally see a grown man cry. The one thing that I took away from this book was Nick Nolte and these gray sweatpants. Like, he wears those sweatpants a whole lot. We have the book / movie In the Time of the Butterflies. This book is a historical fiction. It's set in the Dominican Republic, and it follows the 4 Mirabal sisters who plot to overthrow the crooked dictator Trujillo. You see how their families are persecuted. You see how they're harassed, and then how the sisters are imprisoned and then later killed. It's a really good movie if you're into historical fiction. I didn't read the book. I didn't know there was a book behind it, but I didn't read the book. But I thought the movie was pretty good. I always say I saw about 3/4 of it before I turned it off. But it was a really good movie. It stars Selma Hayek. Another movie / book is called In Her Shoes. Now, this is a movie that I actually did see several times. I did not know that there was a book behind it till I actually saw it at the book sale. But this follows one sister who is this successful lawyer, and her other sister who, she's the pretty party girl, never really amounted to anything. And that party girl sister actually sleeps with the lawyer sister's boyfriend, and of course they have some drama like they should. She kicks her out. Eventually they go through these growth opportunities, to find out who their true selves are and, become sister friends again. But I thought it was a very, very good movie. It starred Cameron Diaz as the party girl sister, and it starred Toni Collette as the lawyer sister. I thought the movie did a very good job relaying the relationship between these two sisters and how you can build a relationship again, especially after something so horrible and disrespectful, if you ask me, happens between the two of them. So that one's definitely worth checking out. It's a drama. It does have some comedy, but for the most part, it's a drama. Another book / film adaptation is The Constant Gardner. To be honest, I never saw this film, nor did I read the book. But from my understanding, it's a political thriller in which a British diplomat based in Kenya finds out that his wife has been killed, and he goes on this search in order to find out who killed her. And of course it has some political undertones and about why she was killed. And I guess it's called the Constant Gardner because he is a gardener as well. I heard it was good, just not my thing. Not really into political thrillers. Okay, so the next book slash film is called Memoirs of a Geisha. I actually read Memoirs of a Geisha before I actually saw the movie. And I will say that I enjoyed the book much better than the movie. Memoirs of a Geisha basically is about this poor girl who grows up to become this beautiful, revered geisha. And, this is in Japan. So, you get to learn about that culture, get to see a lot of the beautiful surroundings in Japan. You also follow it through, I think it's World War I, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you get a lot of historical things that happen in the book that you can relate. So I just thought that it was a very interesting book. I thought it was very pretty. I didn't know too much about geisha and how it was an art form, but I thought it was really interesting. I just thought that the movie, for one, it featured Chinese characters, so that was a little bit off-putting that you have this book set in Japanese culture with Chinese actors. And I think that there was a lot of backlash with the movie because of that. I also felt that there was a lot more details in the book than in the movies. And I understand you can't always put all of those things into a movie. I think the movie was really nice. I just think that after reading the book, I was let down a bit with the movie. Next, you have the Davinci Code and what was it called? Angels and Demons. Now, this was very complicated for me. I definitely was not going to read the books. I just think it was just too much complication. It had a lot of religion and history in it. And I can't say that's the type of stuff that I look for when I'm going to look at a book as well as a movie. But I saw a little bit of the Davinci Code and I thought it looked interesting. Like I said, just a bit complicated. But if you're into history and if you're into religion, I think it's a great book. I think it's going to teach you a lot. And I definitely think it is worth checking out. The next book slash movie is The Devil Wears Prada. I think almost everybody saw this particular movie. I did read the book. I thought that Andy was really annoying, and I thought that the Miranda was definitely a lot more harsh than in the movie. But I enjoyed this movie. I thought the fashion was nice. I'm not a huge fashion person. I enjoy looking at, different labels and things like that in fashion, but I definitely am not one of those that gets into the consumerism of it. And I thought that the characterization for each of the characters was definitely on point in the movie, and the casting was done very, very well. Overall, I thought that this screen book movie adaptation was on point. Knights of Rodanthe. Okay, this is another one. I didn't see the movie and I did not read the book. Well, actually not true. I saw about 5 minutes of the movie. I thought it was a bit of a sappy love story that did not hold my interest, and therefore I turned the TV off, and that's the end of that book slash movie. Another book slash movie that I read both the book and saw the movie is The Lovely Bones. It's a beautifully told story. It's a sad story, but very beautifully told. It's about a young girl who is kidnapped, sexually assaulted, I believe, and is murdered. And then she goes to heaven. She's in limbo and she is looking down on her family, figuring out how they cope and seeing whether or not the person that killed her actually, something is done to him. But it's a very good story. I think that Saroy Roman, who plays the lead character, Susie Salmon, I think she's angelic looking, and I think that she has a very lovely voice, and I think she was cast very well in that role. Great movie if you haven't checking it out. Get some tissues nearby. It's definitely one of those sad stories, but a very enjoyable one as well. The next movie book is the Twilight series. Now, we have all seen the Twilight series, I think. I believe it was 5 movies and 4 books. I read the last book in the series. I'd already gotten engrossed in all the movies, and I'm one of those people, I don't tend to go back from the movie to the book. It's one way for me, book to movie and not the other way. But anyway, I thought the movies were well done. I thought that the movie was better compared to the last book that I read. I think just more emotion. I think all the Hollywood glitz and glamour, the epic scenery, especially set in the Pacific Northeast, and the music just really brought out these characters. I am definitely a team Jacob because I think he's just hot, although I don't think he had any sort of chance whatsoever with Bella. I think Edward was always there, so it just annoyed me in Eclipse and in New Moon how he kept throwing himself at her and she was just not trying to take take the bait on that one. I think Twilight is just one of those epic series that will go down in history as one of the greatest book slash movie adaptations out there. Some people may beg to differ, and it's up to, for interpretation, but that's what I believe. I enjoy Twilight a lot. Another book slash movie is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Apparently, this movie got a lot of acclaim. It just wasn't something that held my interest when I first saw it, so I didn't see too much of it, and I definitely didn't read the book. But it's about a disgraced reporter who is hired by some girl's uncle to help find who murdered her 40 years later. So you go through all these twists and turns to try to figure out who it is because the uncle believes it's somebody that was in his family. My husband and a lot of other people I know actually saw the movie and thought it was really, really good. So it may be worth checking out. Another book is The Help. This was actually a very good blockbuster, and I saw the movie and read a little bit of the book. It's about, the South back in the 50s where you had, the black maids worked in all of the white households. And you have one of the daughters who decides she wants to start interviewing all the different maids and get their stories about what happens and transform them into a book. And I thought it was a little bit gross, but funny stories that happen inside of the book. It makes light of a lot of Southern racism or just racism in general, but at the same time, it's very informative. I thought that it was a very good book. I think you learned a lot, especially about segregation down in the South. I do think that the book is better though. So if you want to decide between one or the other, I definitely would say check out the book. Next, you have the Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is absolutely epic. I think you have to be laying and sleeping and eating and everything else underneath a rock to not have heard of Game of Thrones, whether you watched it or not. But it's a book, very small book. I was surprised by how small it is. But it's a book. I think Game of Thrones is actually based off of 5 books, and then after the movie or the series went off, then it was, I think, 2 more books produced after that. But it's basically about a king that dies and decides to name someone his predecessor, and of course all the other 7 kingdoms, their leaders didn't like that, and everybody's trying to overthrow and become head supreme. But you have so many great characters that have come out of this one series. I think my favorite person was Daenerys because I like the whole dragon aspect, and I really enjoyed when she took the dragon and just demolished the city in the last few episodes. So just one of those things that stood out for me. I learned who Peter Dinklage was. I got exposed to a lot of different people that I didn't get to, know before the series. I think it was a great translation from the book onto the big screen, and I think it will also go down just like Twilight as one of those epic adaptations that people will love to enjoy for years and years to come. Okay, so I have to point this out. I have, look at that, magnetic lashes on. That's my first time doing these. Pretty interesting. I don't think I could do these on a daily basis, but Hollywood glam, here we are. Anyway, so the next book slash big screen adaptation is The Fifth Wave. So it's a series of 3 books, and then you have 1 movie. Now, I'm not sure about when they're going to come out with the next movie, if they're even going to come out, because it has definitely been a while. But it follows Cassie, who's on the run with her younger brother. She's trying to save him because the world is being destroyed by these aliens who are, invading in different waves. So it looked pretty interesting. I got really, really engrossed in it, and then it just kind of got left off, and it's been a few years. So we'll see what happens with that. But I definitely think that it's a series that's worth checking out. The next book is the Divergent series. There are these 4 factions in society that each have a different purpose to contribute to society as a whole. And you have Tress and her family, and they're in one faction. Then the kids, when they get of a certain age, they have to decide on which one they want to go into and basically leave their family and kind of start all over. Then the faction starts fighting amongst each other, and you have all these epic battles. And, it was a pretty good series. I think it's something you can definitely engross yourself into. It gets a bit complicated, which is the reason why I decided not to get into the books and just watch the movies. I was even a bit confused at some points in the movie, but I think that it's definitely worth checking out in a series that will hold your interest. So the next book is called The Girl on the Train. Now, we've all probably heard of this movie. It's about Rachel, who is an alcoholic. She's traveling on the train each and every day, and then she looks at this perfectly, idyllic couple, and wants to be them, and then she discovers something shocking. You have murder, you have infidelity, you have a little bit of everything. But this is a really twisting psychological novel with, a few different type plot lines going on. I haven't read the book yet, but that is a book that I actually did pick up and do plan to read. But very good movie, and I think the book will be great. Last but not least is 50 Shades of Grey. For those of you that don't know, 50 Shades of Grey is about this young girl named Anastasia who interviews this young billionaire for her school paper. And, he's into this BDSM lifestyle. And she, of course, comes over to that, and then they fall in love and, all that good stuff. I thought that 50 Shades of Grey was a fantastic read. I think it was very tame if you're into BDSM, so it might be a disappointment in that respect. But as far as with the mommy porn that everybody coined it to be, I think it did a fantastic job of giving you a little bit of hint of the lifestyle to, maybe take back into your own life, but nothing too hardcore. I felt that the movie was a complete letdown, and I was disappointed in that. I think the casting did a great job with Anastasia. However, I think with Christian, it did not do justice. I think he was not as attractive as I thought he would be, and didn't have that level of assertiveness that I expected. But I definitely think that it was a good series. I just thought that the movie did not do the books justice. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I saw at the book sale that were big screen adaptations. I enjoyed getting myself together. I think I look a little bit more Hollywood glam, or at the very least not like myself when I started. So I'm gonna put on something nice, and I'll be back. Now you can go watch some movies. I'll read a book. Bye.